Hello, I'm Tamim Ansary, the author of The Invention of Yesterday, which is a history of humanity from the Stone Age to the virtual age. And I'm interested in the connections between today and yesterday, between things that are happening now and things that happened in the past. For example, these days the public chatter around me is all about the possible impeachment of Donald Trump and the infamous Ukraine phone call. And the language and the arguments around these issues use terms like the Constitution comes up, Supreme Court. We hear about the next presidential election, the Democrats and their nominating process. In short, all the familiar terms of the American political past. But the question is, do these terms still apply? You know, I'm thinking about the last days of the Roman Republic, which came about in the few decades before and spanning the lifetime of Jesus Christ. And when that period began, Rome was a republic. It was governed by a senate of several hundred men. They were elected out of the patrician class, the upper class of Rome. And there was also, the working class, the poor people of Rome, the plebeians, also elected officials called the tribunes of the plebes. And they had just one power, but it was a mighty power. They could say no to anything the Senate decided. And then the Senate each year elected two of its members to be consuls, and they were the executive administrators for that year. And in the following year, then there were two different men were elected consuls. But the push and pull of different forces and contending parties for power in Roman society began to distort this fabric. It didn't tear it, nothing was shut down, but things suddenly changed. Some consuls got elected again and again and again. And some patricians found ways to get themselves elected tribunes of the plebeians. And gangs of hired thugs began showing up at the polls. And over the course of these years, the push and pull, the violence kept rising until finally there was an explosion of turmoil featuring, among others, Julius Caesar. And when the smoke cleared, one man was in control of Rome, and his name was Augustus. Now, the interesting thing is that at the time, nothing really officially changed then. Augustus did not call himself the emperor, and the Romans generally didn't. They called him the princeps, which meant first man of Rome. It wasn't an office, it was an honorarium. It was a way of Romans to say, dude, we think you're the coolest Roman that ever lived. But the Senate continued to meet, and they continued to elect two of their members as consuls every year, even though it was all meaningless ritual. And they continued to discuss issues of the day. For example, the Senate took up the question of was Augustus a human or was he a god? And the Senate came to the conclusion that he was a god. And this now continued on for several centuries, even though actual unlimited total power in Rome was in the hands of one man. And when he died, somebody in his family inherited that power, or else the army stepped in and they made the decision. But the Roman people in general had no role in it. Historians looking back, however, look at that period and they're in no doubt that that was the before and after moment. That's when Rome went through its transformation from republic to empire. And I think the question is, historians looking back today at our time, at the United States in this era, will they see this as the before and after moment? Will they see this as the moment when democracy as we have known it all along gives way in America to some new system?